Good afternoon and evening, Kokomo and the surrounding communities. This is Meteorologist James Olive here with Dynamic Weather Agency, giving you a quick update on the upcoming high-impact winter storm system that we're expecting to move on through the area. Taking a look at our weather headlines. Again, this is going to be a high-impact winter storm system. It's going to be coming in two waves and it's going to be prolonged. And that's going to be basically the key players, this prolonged period of heavy snow expected to cross the northern portions of Indiana. This is going to begin late tonight and expected to continue through Thursday, potentially with some impacts continuing into as early as Friday morning. Snow and ice, is likely across the state of Indiana, with a swath of 12 inches plus across portions of north central and northern Indiana, north of I-70. And cold temperatures are going to follow behind the system, beginning as early as Friday and continuing into the weekend. Now, where we're at with our winter weather forecasting timeline, we're in that 1 to 3 time range. So those forecast details have become very clear based on the locations of where the heavy snow is going to end up, how that rain is going to transition into snow, where that freezing rain is going to set on up, the timing of this storm system, along with the amounts. Now, talking about winter storm impacts. So we're expecting travel disruptions to begin as early as Wednesday morning, and those are going to continue to last through early Friday. And with those travel impacts, we are going to potentially begin seeing some school delays and closures if we haven't already seen those yet. I don't know if any of those are out yet. I haven't looked into the school closings yet, but I do expect schools to be closed potentially Wednesday, Thursday, and maybe on Friday, depending on the recovery time for those road crews to be able to plow and get those roads covered. Southern portion of Indiana, you may still be dealing with some of that ice. Schools could be closed on Friday. Now, the highest snowfall is expected to occur across the northern half of Indiana, along and north of I-70, where places south of I-70 is going to be where the greatest potential for freezing rain and ice accumulations are going to occur. With the heavy snow and with some of those ice accumulations, there is the potential for some power outages to occur too with this winter storm system. Now, taking a look at our Winter Storm Severity Index, this is a product issued by the Weather Prediction Center and NOAA. Basically, what this product is looking at a couple of different parameters to come up with these different threats, basically. And one, it takes a look at how much snow is likely to occur over an area. How fast is that snow going to fall? And for crews, based off of that, to be able to keep up with the snow. Is this going to be a wet, heavy snow? Is it going to be a light, fluffy snow? So the snow load is very important with that. It also takes a look at wind components, the potential for blowing and drifting snow. And if you have blowing and drifting snow, you have the possibility for reductions of visibility, so the potential for some blizzard-like or blizzard conditions, depending on how long those conditions could be prolonged. And it also takes a look at the potential for surfaces to become ice covered and the amount of ice accumulation that could occur. Now, as we take a look at the graphic, along and north of I-70, you can see we are expecting major to extreme impacts. You can see those extreme impacts stretching all the way from Danville, including places like Lafayette, Kokomo, Peru, Logansport, up towards the Plymouth area, including Fort Wayne, with those major impacts extending from Richmond, including Muncie, Indianapolis, Carmel, all the way back towards the Terre Haute region. South of I-70, lighter snow accumulations, but freezing rain is going to be the more of the impact down there, but there's still going to be the potential for some significant snowfall, as you'll see when we take a look at our snowfall forecast here in a little bit. Now, what do those Winter Storm Severity Index impacts mean? Well, those major impacts roughly equate to NWS warning level criteria. Major disruptions, extensive damage is potential, while those extreme or historic, widespread, severe damage with extreme disruptions to life. So if you haven't already, be sure to go ahead and start going out to the stores, get what you can, and prepare. Have some food and be prepared to be without power. Have some blankets. Propane heater is a great thing to have to keep you warm if the power does go on out. Now, taking a look at our current hazards, we do have a lot of winter weather Watches, warnings, and advisories still in effect from the National Weather Service offices, stretching all the way across the lower Great Lakes into the Ohio Valley. You can see the swath of winter storm watches south of I-70, winter storm warnings north of I-70, stretching across basically central and northern Illinois into central and northern Indiana into northwest Ohio, southern Michigan into southeastern Michigan. You can basically see those winter storm warnings that are currently in effect, with some winter weather advisories across portions of northern Illinois, stretching from basically Burlington all the way up to the northern portions of Chicago, but Chicago is still under those winter storm warnings. Now, those winter storm warnings are in effect from 1 a.m. Tonight, Wednesday morning, to about 1 a.m. Friday. Basically, heavy mixed precipitation with snow accumulations of excess of 10 inches and some ice accumulations less than 1/10 of an inch are expected across some of these areas. And like we said, travel could be difficult to impossible with hazardous conditions impacting morning and evening commutes tomorrow. Now, taking a look at the current satellite and radar, again, we're seeing some increasing clouds move on through the area. We saw some isolated showers across the western portions of our viewing area, and those showers did decrease, but you see some of that rain beginning to push on through portions of Illinois, and that will eventually move into our area and transition into snow, but first we'll start out as rain. Now, let's take a closer look at the Kokomo and surrounding area. Again, you can see those increasing clouds beginning to move across the area, and there's those isolated showers that have begun to fizzle on out with some isolated showers we saw just east of the Lafayette area move through portions of Frankfort and dissipating before moving on into basically Howard County. Now, taking a look at the current conditions here in Kokomo, temperatures right now sitting in the low 50s, right around 53, mostly cloudy conditions with increasing cloud cover moving on across the area. The relative humidity is around 60%, that dew point at 38, visibility around 10 statute miles, and a south-southwest wind at 15 miles per hour. And that's helping draw some of that Gulf moisture up and over the region, which we'll talk about here in a little bit later when it comes to kind of our forecast reasoning behind why this is going to be potentially dumping heavy snowfall across the northern half of Indiana. And right now, that pressure is sitting at about 10-15 millibars, but is going to begin decreasing as that area of low pressure begins to move on into our area. Taking a look at the surrounding communities around Kokomo, again, temperatures low 50s, some mid to upper 50s across the northern half of our viewing area in Logansport, Peru. Seeing 56, 55 degrees right now, just because they're seeing a little bit more sunshine across there. But overall, temperatures low to mid 50s in the Kokomo and surrounding area. Tonight, rain is going to begin tonight, transitioning into snow as we move into Wednesday morning. Lows tonight are going to be in basically the upper 20s, low 30s across the area. Low for Kokomo is around 29 degrees. South winds still at 5 to 10 miles an hour, still drawing some of that moisture ahead of that low pressure system. And sunset tonight is going to be right around 6:03 p.m. As we take a look at our low temperatures in the surrounding area, again, like I said, those lows are going to be in those upper 20s to low 30s for the surrounding communities. 29 in Kokomo, 34 in Muncie, 28 in Lafayette, and 27 in Peru. Now, as we take a look at our temperatures tomorrow are not going to get relatively warm. They're going to be right around freezing, around that 32 degree mark, or just slightly below that. As you can see, our temperatures right here, 32 in Kokomo, 37 in Muncie, but those temperatures are going to quickly decrease as that cold front begins to drag and move across the region. All right, taking a look at our Futurecast radar, as we go into the evening, overnight hours, we'll see rain begin to push on into the forecast area. By the time we get into about 7 o'clock, we'll start seeing some of that rain transition to sleet, into a wintry mix, freezing rain, eventually turning into snow by the time we get into about the noon hour into the early evening, about 2 o'clock. Mostly snow occurring across much of the Kokomo and surrounding community areas and north of I-70. Rain continuing across the southern portions south of I-70 as we go into basically the afternoon into the early evening hours. As we get into about the 8 o'clock time frame, snow continuing across the northern portions of Indiana, starting to see some of that rain transition into freezing rain and wintry mixed conditions south of the I-70 corridor as that front continues to move on through and that cold air continues to slide in behind that. By the time we get into about the 11 midnight time frame, you can see that little bit of a lull period as that first wave begins to move on out. Freezing rain conditions and wintry mixed conditions occurring all the way from Evansville up towards the Richmond area. Snow continuing north of the I-70 corridor. By the time we move into the morning hours on Thursday, mixed precipitation and freezing rain conditions occurring south of I-70, snow continuing north of the I-70 region. But as we move into basically the evening hours, afternoon, evening hours, much of the state of Indiana is going to be transitioning mostly over to that snow. We'll start seeing snow accumulations south of the I-70 corridor, basically late morning into the afternoon and evening as we have that wintry mix across that area. And we'll begin to start seeing that snow begin to move out of the Kokomo and surrounding viewing area by the time we get into basically the 8 to 10 o'clock time frame, with snow conditions still occurring across the southern half of the state into basically the evening into the overnight hours, with maybe some lingering spotty snow showers into the Friday morning across some of the Kokomo and surrounding areas. So cannot rule that out, but there's still going to be definitely some travel impacts as we move into our Friday. So the big question everyone is asking, how much snow are we going to see? Before I get into exact totals, I do want to show you guys the probabilities from the European Ensemble forecast right here. This is the probability for snow accumulations greater than 6 inches. You can see just how strong the European Ensemble is, indicating 80 to almost 100% probabilities of areas north of I-70 potentially seeing greater than 6 inches of snow accumulations. Not only that, we're still seeing high probabilities for the possibility for snow accumulations greater than 12 inches, of 40 to even 65, 70% chances for snow accumulations of over a foot across the northern half of portions of Indiana. Now, as we take a look at our high-resolution snowcast forecasted accumulated snowfall, this is what our forecasted snowfall accumulations was showing, which is very similar to our hand-drawn snowfall forecast that we made yesterday that we're going to show here in a little bit, and that's still going to be our official pretty much forecast for the most part. There is a slight bit of a southward dive with some of that 8 to 12 inches of snow, that more moderate purple area that you see moving between Kokomo and Indianapolis. That little bit, not that very dark purple, but that next color of dark purple that we see moving on through the area has made a little bit of a southward drag for the most part, but it's not enough to really warrant us to really draw a new snowfall forecast map. I think our forecast is very good, and I have very high confidence in our forecast. But I do want to show you, here's a graphic we posted yesterday. This is showing the weather model comparisons, and I was talking about how this shows us, based off the Euro, the NAM, and the NWS blended models, we can kind of get an average and find a good range of what our snowfall forecast totals could be for our area based off of the models. And I mentioned this earlier, these models are only projections of what can happen. They do trend up and downwards between runs, so trend analysis becomes a very important factor. And I've also mentioned in our post earlier today how these models work. I mean, all these models are using complex mathematical equations, and to make these models run faster, more efficiently, and take less processing power, we simplify those models, those mathematical equations, thus inducing errors into those models, making those models wrong. And it's our job as meteorologists to adjust those models and make our own forecasts. But for the most part, you can see here that GFS model was kind of an outlier, way on the extreme side, forecasting 22 inches of snowfall for the Kokomo and surrounding area. Those models have become a little bit more closer together, giving us more confidence on the forecast totals. The Euro, the NAM, and the NWS blended models forecasting that same area, coming closer together instead of being 1 to 3 inches apart. They're only about an inch apart or identical in forecast values. That GFS model is slowly but surely tailoring back the snowfall totals closer towards those of the European, the NAM, and the National Weather Service blended models. Now, again, taking a look at our snowcast forecasted accumulated snowfall, this is our high resolution in-house model that we have across portions of basically, northern portions of Tipton into Howard, Miami, Cass, Carroll, Tippecanoe, Wabash, and Grant counties. We're expecting 12 to 16 inches plus of snowfall. Higher snowfall totals the more north you go across the forecast area. So Delphi, Logansport, Denver, and North Manchester, likely to see those isolated snowfall amounts of 16 plus inches with possible isolated accumulations of 20. Okay. Southern half, 8 to 12 inches of snow, more likely going to be closer towards that 10 to 12. Now, what are we looking at for freezing rain accumulations? Across Kokomo, southern half of our viewing area, there's going to be some very light accumulations of freezing rain, a couple hundredths of an inch, if that, maybe a very light glaze. Now, as you start getting towards I-70 and south of there, that's when you're going to start seeing a tenth of an inch to potentially a quarter of an inch of freezing rain accumulations across the area. So getting into the meteorology behind the system that we have going on over here. So we do have kind of this like little impulse that's moving out of the Four Corners region into parts of Oklahoma that's going to eventually track its way to the north and to the east along a confluent boundary that we have that's basically extending its way from a more pronounced low pressure system that's located in Canada that you can see located over basically the Hudson Bay region with a cold front draping all the way southward towards basically the Oklahoma towards Oklahoma, and this front is going to continue to shift its way across the area into our forecast area with a lot of cooler air moving on in behind that, which we'll take a look at here in a little bit. But just right out ahead of that confluent boundary and that approaching front, we do have very strong low-level winds here at 850 millibars. Our winds are basically anywhere from 50 knots across parts of Alabama into Louisiana and Arkansas, decreasing to about 20 to 30 knots across portions of the Tennessee Valley. But that's basically helping evac a lot of rich moisture from the Gulf of Mexico up into the Tennessee Valley in the Ohio Valley region. That's basically causing a lot of robust mid-level ascent with basically some isentropic ascent that we have moving on through the area, which we'll take a look at that here in just a little bit. But take a look at this. Here's our PWAT values right here. This is a precipitable water, and you get to see how that moisture is being transported from the Gulf region up towards the Tennessee Valley into the Ohio Valley. And here's our PWAT anomalies right here, just showing us, how anomalous some of this moisture is. And this is a lot of moisture moving on over this area with some cold air moving on in behind it. That's going to create some very heavy snowfall. Again, we have a lot of isentropic ascent and mid-level ascent happening right ahead of that confluent boundary, allowing for some of that moisture to send up into the atmosphere and basically wrap around this kind of weird, weak surface boundary, surface low that's going to develop around the baroclinic zone and deformation zone of this area of low pressure ahead of the upper level frontal features. That's going to get some enhanced forcing, creating some intense snow banding. Again, here's that cold air moving on in behind that cold front where temperatures are going to be a little bit mild, near 32 degrees as snow begins to fall. So we'll see some more 8-to-1 to 10-to-1 liquid equivalent snow ratios as that cooler air moves on in. That's going to transition more towards 12 to 15-to-1 snow to liquid equivalent snow ratios as that cooler air arrives on into the area. Now, one of the most important factors as we have that mid-level ascent, isentropic ascent, whatever you want to call, moving on through the area with some of that moisture moving on around, is going to be with that developing kind of weird surface low and surface low frontal boundaries that we have moving on through the area, is where some of that frontogenesis is going to occur, where some of that stronger frontogenesis banding ends up setting on up across central Illinois and northern Indiana. That's going to show us where some of those more significant snowfall totals are likely to occur, where we may see those snowfall totals approaching isolated amounts of 20 plus inches across some of these areas where some of those yellows are likely to occur with that system that's going to be occurring again in those two waves. Now, taking a look at our 7-day forecast and our extended range forecast, snow beginning late tonight, continuing through Wednesday and Thursday, maybe some lingering impacts as we move into Friday, but cooler air for the most part as we go into Friday. Lows in the single digits with those highs in the teens. And as we move into Saturday, take a look at that low temperature, -3, -1, so potentially some sub-zero temperatures as we move into Saturday to start off the weekend with some wind chills around -10 to -15 degrees forecasted for some locations in our viewing area as we go into Saturday morning. So very cold, frigid temperatures moving on in behind this area of low pressure, but drier conditions as we go from Friday through Tuesday. As you can see, basically partly sunny to partly cloudy conditions as we continue out through the rest of the week, with a little bit of a rebound in temperatures as we go through Sunday into Tuesday, beginning our next week. I just want to show you guys here again. Here's our futurecast wind chills for Saturday, 6 a.m. Cold wind chills are going to be set up across the area. Wind chills with -5 to -15 across Kokomo and the surrounding community. So very cool temperatures to start off our Saturday morning. Last but not least, I do encourage you guys to send us your weather-related photos and videos. I love to share them here on the Kokomo Weather Channel and at Dynamic Weather Agency LLC. So be sure to just send us a message, send them down in the comments below, and we love to share those for everyone who does check out our channel.